This is Soliloquy Radio, the podcast that discusses philosophy, spirituality, consciousness, and paths to a positive lifestyle from a non-theistic perspective. So sit back and open your mind. Welcome back to another episode of Soliloquy Radio. I'm your host, as always, Otis Ayala. This is episode 12, Less Questions, Not More Answers. Back in episode 10, I ended our discussion with a concept that when you achieve a certain level of consciousness through acceptance, that you gain an understanding that there are no answers to the great mysteries of life, just less questions. I want to get deeper into this concept, as there's always some confusion about this type of thing. The idea of having less with more. It's a strange idea, especially to those of us in the Western culture. Also, on this subject matter and on this episode, we're going to be starting to get into spirituality. Up to now, we've been discussing a lot of the mental positivity and a mindset, but we haven't yet touched on spirituality. We're going to start scratching the surface of that on this episode. And this is because I personally know of and see posts on social media where several people are struggling with religion and spirituality. And these next couple of episodes, they're going to get deeper into this subject matter. Because one, it's too big to leave to one episode. And two, because part of a conscious and enlightened life has to do with spirituality. So even though both I and this podcast I produce are non-theistic in nature, doesn't mean that it's devoid of spirituality, right? A conscious life can't be achieved without a sense that we are all connected, that all is one and one is all. Mitakuyi oyasin, right? We are all connected. Therein lies the spirituality. Therein lies the inevitability that as we walk this path and broaden our understandings, it is natural that at some point we will look at our current belief systems and we'll wonder where and how they now fit, and if we can reconcile the old with the new. For those out there who are rock solid in their devotion, I do appreciate you. I want you to listen with an open mind, because there's always some type of information and positivity, something you can gain, right? There may be information for you out there. Do not be surprised. For those out there who are struggling, hopefully this talk and my personal experiences can shed some light on this subject. Remember, I'm nobody special. Nothing more special than anyone out there listening. So when I say this is just my opinion based on my experiences and outlook, this is just one man's view that I'm sharing with the world. This is my truth and is not more valid than the next. The only exception is that I have put my falsehoods out in the open for examination under a magnifying glass. And under self-scrutiny, I've understood these falsehoods and have allowed them to release, and thus release me from the yoke of ignorance. Now back to the subject, which is no answers, just less questions. And those questions we have are the ones who are the major questions in life. The ones whose answers always evade us, like, who am I and what is the meaning of life? What is my purpose in life? But why should there be an answer to any of these questions? And in fact, there shouldn't be an answer, because we're going to show that these questions are invalid and irrelevant to begin with. To understand this, let's start with, who am I? Think about it. Who are you? Are you your body, your memory, your personality, your mind, your consciousness. A lot of people think that they're just a culmination of their memories. But I want you to ask yourself, you know that movie MIB, where they have the little silver stick that erases people's memories? Imagine if I had one of those, and I went up to you and I erased an hour of your memory. Would you still be you? What if I erased the entire day? Does that change anything? Think about it. What if I erased last month or last year? Sure, you probably wake up confused, but in all those scenarios, you would still be you. So what makes us who we are? It's better to try to understand what we aren't. See, we're clearly not our possessions. Although there's a majority of people that live this way. They put their self-worth into the type of car they drive, or how big their house is, or how big their paycheck is. That's not you. It is not our bodies, because we can lose a limb, 2 limbs. We could be a quadriplegic and we'd still be us. Is it our emotions and personality? Well, those are actually directly linked to other people and our reaction to them. See, if we were the only ones alive and no one else was around, would we still be us? Because if there was no one else around, would we know if we were jealous? Would we know if we were kind? If there was nothing to be jealous or kind to? See, the conscious realization is that this question of who we really are is invalid. Remember when I said that you're going to realize that there's no thinking outside the box because you understand that there's no box to begin with. This is one of those boxes. See, the question of who we are has no merit because to answer it is to label ourselves. And any label we place on ourselves is inherently a limitation, a box. This box that we impose, created by our mind and our egos, need to be defined. See, the rose and the bird do not need to be defined. They just live. The universe, by any other name, would still exist. We must learn to let go of the ego's desire for definition and just be. Be in the now and aware of our connection to everything else. We are the universe is us. All is one, one is all. See, a defined limitation that we place upon ourselves is the worst kind because we become the instrument by which we are imprisoned. When you become aware and awake, you begin to understand that no label can sufficiently engulf the wholeness of your being. On the contrary, it is better to comprehend what you aren't than what you are. This brings us to the question of the meaning of life. Another invalid question, because why does there have to be a meaning to life to begin with? Can't we just be here to live and experience the beauty that is life? Why do we feel the need to insert some deeper meaning into it? Isn't experiencing enough? It's like art. Some people will stare at art and they look at the painting and they try to uncover some secret meaning or message the artist was trying to convey. Meanwhile, to the artist, there was no meaning. It just is. They enjoy painting and just allow the paint to hit canvas and do what they do. No deeper or hidden meaning, just an artist getting lost in a meditative state of mind, doing what brings them joy. See, this makes me think of the first time that I saw my favorite painting in person. And my favorite painting is Van Gogh's Starry, Starry Night. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with it. You've seen it in prints and postcards. So the first time I saw this in person was at the MoMA, in New York City. And I stood there for 20 minutes just looking at it. And not because I was trying to understand its meaning, but because I was taking in the brush strokes of paint. See, the paint the artist laid was so thick that it literally jumps off the page like a 3D picture. The prints don't do this painting any justice at all. So as I looked into it, I got lost in each individual layer of color and the varying degrees of the thickness of paint. I never once tried to understand it or its meaning. I just appreciated for what it was. Paint on canvas. See, this is how we need to look at life. With just appreciation for it instead of meaning behind it. Because when we're looking for meaning that we will never find, we will miss out on the beauty that is already there. Think about it. When is the last time you got up to see the sunrise? Or stopped everything you were doing to take in a sunset? When's the last time you laid under a blanket of stars just staring away? Or taken a nature walk just to see what you come across? Beauty of life is all around us, my friends. Every single day, without a pretext of meaning. It just is. And we can learn to see it if we just open ourselves up to it. So let's soak in this first half as we go on break. You're listening to Soliloquy Radio. You can find this show on any major podcast provider by going to soliloquyradio.com under the Listen Now tab and clicking on your preferred provider link. You can also find links to the YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram page. While you're there, remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And now, back to the show. We are back and we've been talking about less questions, not more answers. So the next questions that we are going to talk about, they go hand in hand. And these questions are about your life's purpose and what God's plan is for you. Now let's deal with purpose. Let's not confuse purpose from a higher being with self-driven purposes. These are two different purposes. See, a self-driven purpose is when you see a goal, a dream, a need in the community or the world, and you set out to accomplish it, fill it, and make the world a better place. See, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a God-given purpose, a reason for being from a higher entity. To this I reply simply, why do you need one? Suppose I were to tell you what your purpose in life was, what you were put here to do. What would you do after you accomplished it? Would you just give up on life because there's nothing left to do? Think about it. I want you to think about a bee. The bee's actions are responsible for the cross-pollination of countless fruits and flowers, almost responsible for an entire vegetation on this planet, right? But is this the bee's purpose, or is the bee just living? Is it trying its hardest to live up to a God-given purpose, or is it just going through the motions in a symbiotic relationship between itself and the plants established by eons of evolution? The answer is pretty clear. See, bees do what bees do. We are the ones injecting some hidden purpose behind their actions when there is actually none. So why can we not be like the bee and just live? Be in the present moment. This is because we have a need for a deeper purpose that comes from a place of inadequacy and insecurity. A feeling that we aren't enough and there must be more. There must be a reason. There must be a why